I like to wait a few minutes to make sure this thing's up and running, so you'll have to pardon me for just a few more seconds because I notice it takes a little bit of time for it to catch up as it goes through the system. Okay, as you can tell by the title, I obtained some information here just a short time ago that Governor DeSantis of the state of Florida has now done what I've been asking all of the governors to do, and that is to organize a state militia. He's calling it a state guard. That's fine, that still works. What's the difference? Well, a National Guard under the National Guard Act back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, although these were state military forces under command of the governors, they could be federalized, and the feds actually had control. That's where they were getting most of their funding, and of course, recently we've seen what happens when a National Guard general says that their people aren't going to take any of the GMIs, and then the DoD comes down on them, and the Secretary of Defense Austin says that they will or they'll lose their funding. Well, as I've called for a long time, we need to break our ties, especially our monetary ties, with the federal government and their extortions that they constantly use. So, as you all may have heard me talk about, Texas has a state militia. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, who was once a congressman, I think he had one term. Then he moved to Texas, and he is now running for governor in Texas. Has made that announcement. But more than that, really more than that, he was brought into the Texas State Militia, I believe, as a lieutenant colonel. Now again, this is not the National Guard that answers to the feds in the Pentagon, all right, or even to Biden. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of details here about what this could mean because I don't want to put words into Governor DeSantis's mouth. He wouldn't accept that anyway. And I don't want to make too many presumptions or assumptions. But let me read you a quote from George Washington. It's only a partial quote. It was during an address that he gave to the Senate and the Congress. And this is what he said. This is only part of the quote, but you'll get the idea. Quote, "We are persuaded that one of the most effectual means of preserving peace is to be prepared for war." Let me read that one more time with a comment that I put in parentheses, okay? Again, quoting George Washington, "We are persuaded that one of the most effectual means of preserving peace," sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. Then I put in parentheses, this is my statement, "and I might add, our liberty is to be prepared for war." Let me read it one more time with my little statement attached. George Washington again, "We are persuaded that one of the most effectual means of preserving peace, and I might add, our liberty, is to be prepared for war." As you all know, for many months, I've been calling on all the states to do this because the feds are out of control. They're rogue. They're criminal. Most of them are traitors now. They've denied everything that they were supposed to do under their oaths to the Constitution. Now, I don't want to get into arguments with people about the constitutional government is dead. I know Legal Man has a very good point about that. I agree with that 100%. But by the same token, they're still taking the oaths. Our federal officials are still taking these oaths and then denying them and defying them at the very moment they take them. Again, I could get into a lot of details here. In the description box below is a little piece from Governor DeSantis's information. Please read it. Read between the lines. I think he knows that he needs to have this. He's talking about using it to assist the National Guard. And I'm sure that's probably part of it. But he has to, I hope, understand that this thing needs to be bigger than the National Guard and maybe even absorb a good portion of the National Guard. I'm not talking about getting ready and waging war on the federal government. I'm saying that the states have a right to check and to balance and to offset the tyranny coming out of DC. And they can't do it by talking. I hear all, I'm very peaceful myself. I don't want to go here. But by the same token, these people don't understand, and I'm talking about the tyrants. They don't understand anything but force. They don't. And if you think otherwise, you're kidding yourselves. Now, right now, we're doing pretty well against these forced GMIs in the courts. But those are specific circumstances. You see what's happening in other countries around the world. And they want to do that here. This is an assault on your bodily integrity, your soul and your spirit. This is war to kill you and your family under the pretenses that they're trying to help you. Yeah, right. And I think most of you realize this. Okay? So again, I don't want to put a lot of words into Governor DeSantis's mouth, but I sincerely hope that this is just the beginning of an effort to strengthen the state so that they can withstand these abuses coming out of DC and out of other states that are trying to force their agenda onto the rest of us. We saw in the last few days where 80 Republicans went along with the Democrats in funding a database to see if you've gotten your GMI or not. These people are traitors. They have money. They're invested in the companies that are doing this. They are not representing you. They are your enemies. Now, I don't want DeSantis to start talking that strongly, but we need to be prepared, just as George Washington said. I'm not kidding myself. No single state, not even a large group of states, not even a majority of states, could stand up against federal power unless the threat of force is enough to deter them. And it might have to be just done in the individual states. I'm not talking about forcing the federal government to subdue themselves to the state government of Florida, for instance. I'm talking about the state governments refusing to enforce or allowing the federal government to enforce its dictates. They've assumed all this power under the different clauses of the Constitution that they have expanded the meanings on merely to seize power. And we can't let them do it anymore. And I don't want to get into any specifics here. All right, everybody, I just wanted to let you know. So apparently, I haven't done all the checking that I need to right yet, but we do know that Texas has a state militia. Florida's under the process right now of forming essentially the same thing. DeSantis is calling it a state guard. I understand why he's doing that. That's fine. The principle's the same. Apparently, there's some other states that have this as well. Missouri, I think I heard, has a state militia as well. This is the only answer. These people don't. Stephen Coughlin of Unconstrained Analytics gave an excellent review of this on his site there. And then Gigi Sims did which she always does, did a very good summary of it on Twitter. And there's a difference between discourse and discussion. They don't discuss things with us. Their idea is Marxist. Their discourse is the truth, whether it is or not, and you have to submit to it, because if you don't, you're being a terrorist. George Bush said it right off the bat back in 2001. If you're not with us, you're with the terrorists. If you don't support our banking system and our desire to expand our empire, you're a terrorist. And they're turning that now onto the American people. So I'll end this by saying that you have to be prepared for violence. Because if you're not, they don't take you seriously. I learned that in the Army, and I learned it on the police force. I've told those stories before. We're not going to be able to negotiate with them. The Republicans certainly didn't do it for you, did they? 80 of them went along with this tyranny. And they're going to do more. And they're going to get your daughters, as I've warned about now for decades, that they're coming for your daughters to force them into service. And you idiots out there who think that's a good idea because it'll teach the women a lesson, you're going to regret that. I know Florida's not your own republic. I understand that. Who's saying that? I understand that. Oh, you are your own republic. Well, I'm not sure about that. I know Texas is, but it doesn't matter. The states have a right to form these state militias, state guards, independent of the federal system that the National Guard that the federal system absconded with and took over. The National Guard is not the militia. That's a lie that's been perpetrated since 1900. And Austin just proved it. That's all I've got. I just wanted to bring that out. I think it's great news. Again, in the description box is some information. You can't have a balance of power unless you have the ability to have a balance of violence. That's our world. That's what we live in. And if anybody out there, I'm really getting tired of hearing, oh, we can't do it because we have to stay peaceful. They're not going to let you stay peaceful. And the governors have to do what DeSantis is doing, what Texas has done. And I'm calling on the governors of Wyoming and Utah and Idaho and Arizona to do the same thing. We have little time left. Little time. They're killing your babies. This isn't going to be easy. But if we don't do anything, it'll be easy for the enemy. Y'all take care. I'm going to go buy some cologne today. Haven't bought any for a long time. Out here.